Hey guys, it's Iconic, and in this one I wanted to quickly go over an update to my build in reaction to the updates that happened yesterday, the bug fix. And the bug fix in question is the fixed interaction between SRS and Grim Feast, because what Grim Feast says is Grim Feast has a 50% chance to drop a remnant when an enemy or reviving minion, and SRS were not reviving minions, were temporary minions. So that meant they were not supposed to be proccing Grim Feast for our defensive layering and for our recover ES. So with this bug fix, that means SRS effectively no longer do that. And this puts us in a situation where we have to refigure our defenses, because Energy Shield without Grim Remnants is very, very iffy. It takes too long to start charging, its charge is slow, and it's much smaller without the overflow ES. So we went through a couple of iterations, played around with the idea of Mind Over Matter, Eldritch Battery, to make it so all damage goes out of your mana first, and then converting all your flat ES to mana to give a bigger mana pool. So your mana would essentially act like a pseudo second health bar. Now, the problem I found with this setup is no matter how I thought about it, in every situation, whenever you were getting swarmed and you were taking a lot of damage, and all those situations that get very dicey, you would not have any mana to use an offering or any of your support spells that would increase the damage the enemies that are swarming you are taking, which is typically what you want to do in those situations, because that is why you're about to die, right? And not having mana for those things in that moment typically meant you were in a very rough situation where all you could do is just roll around and hope your minions are able to kill the thing that's attacking you. And it just basically all led to awkward gameplay that I didn't like the idea of. So I just completely said no. I don't want to go down that route. I will still try it, and if it's good, I might, make an update on that one or something. But I went the other route, which is the backup plan I had, because I always knew that the SRS interaction would get fixed. So I went the backup plan I had, which is to replace SRS with Skeletal Warriors, because Skeletal Warriors have the lowest reservation among all skeletons. They have decent health, so they actually do damage with the explode, and they are reviving minions, so they would proc remnants. Now with the Skeletal Warriors, it's been good. When I first spec'd into it, it was a bit awkward, especially seeing as they are reviving minions, so you can get into this situation where, because we're using clerics and we do need clerics, we can't not use clerics. They would die, they would get resurrected, and then they would die again, so you would never have your respawn timer fill. And that is not bad until you start having mapping scenarios where you run out of range of your Arsonist and then they die, because that is how minions that are out of range behave, and your clerics cannot revive minions that don't have a corpse there. This effectively meant that you would be locked out of your Arsonist for either very prolonged periods of time, or just pretty much forever, until all your Skeletal Warriors died or all your clerics died. And that is not an ideal setup. However, I was able to get to an equilibrium where, with the amount of clerics and with the amount of exploding skeletons, they are staggered enough to where if your Arsonists were to die, they don't die quickly enough to interrupt the timer. And I did this by reducing the damage they take. So I delayed the explosion time the skeletons had, so you would have more than enough time if a few skeletons were there to get your Arsonists back. And not only that, I also delayed my clerics revival speed, so that they weren't as on top of reviving as possible, because by default their base revival cooldown is 5 seconds, but that is about the time my revives work. So by having them correlate, you have a situation where they revive, they die, but then there's enough time to have your Arsonist come back up and all your minions revive essentially. So to get that, what I did was I removed Feeding Frenzy from my Skeletal Warriors because it was making them take too much damage. So now my Skeletal Warriors have Infernal Legion, Minion Instability, Magnified effect for even more AoE, and Physical Mastery. I also have you can also have as much as 100% of your warriors as clerics, but not more. You cannot have 6 clerics and 5 warriors. You have to either have, currently I'm using 10 arsonists, 5 clerics, 5 warriors. You can go less clerics, but you can't go less warriors in this scenario. You can have 3 clerics, that works fine. I like 5 clerics because in situations where my arsonists die, they revive them. There's just more uptime for them and whatnot. It feels more comfortable essentially when you're dealing with the high mob density that is like breach, maybe ritual, stuff like that. It helps a lot. And something else I have found in this switch is in many situations it honestly adds up to being more energy shield than, or more stable energy shield regen than SRS were, because they are always dying. It doesn't matter how much Flamewall you're casting or anything else like that, they are always dying and they are always dropping remnants. Now it's not quite to the level of SRS in the sense that SRS were 10 of them that would typically die, but you don't have to worry about these guys being replaced. You don't have to worry about not having mana to cast Firewall or whatever else that you might you know, that might hamper you. Basically it's always happening. You don't have to think about it. You always get overflow ES. You're chilling. And with this setup, as you can see in the footage, I can now clear T16s. I can clear T16s. I can probably clear T17s even with bosses. It's no problem. And defensively we're pretty solid. That about covers everything I wanted to talk about. If you've made it this far, do consider liking and subscribing. It helps a lot. And with all that said, thank you for watching. It's about time we kill the boss. I think he's the last rare on the map.